Though we know who we are, yet we know not what we may be. So maybe I'm the one, or maybe I'm crazy. I'm from.
Welcome back to your No Malarkey Guide to Machine Learning. My name is Kalu, and in the last video we were able to write our own get correlation function. You guys have done a great job. I'm so proud of y'all. So in this video we're going to go ahead and calculate how to get the coefficient, our very first independent variable's coefficient. And the reason we want to get our coefficient is we need a coefficient to get our multiple regression formula, the line that best predicts the model, the relationship between both independent variables and our dependent variables. And if you guys forgot, we want to sell a house. Our grandma who lives in Ames, Iowa, she wants to sell a house. So to do that, we got a whole bunch of, I don't have it up here, there it is. We got a data set of 1,560 observations of house sales in Ames, Iowa. We're going to use this data set in the two independent variables of the ground living area and the basement living area. I'm sorry, the garage living area. The garage area. We're going to use these two independent variables to predict how much our grandma's house should be sold for. So that is what we're going to do. And in order to do that, we need to follow along with this equation to figure out what line best models the relationship between these two variables, garage area and living area, in the response variable, price. And we want to get a linear equation. All right, we want to get a linear equation that fits this observed data. So we have the data, we have our correlations, we have everything. We just now need to go ahead and follow this, get this formula. And to get this formula, we need our coefficient. So since we have two independent variables, we need two coefficients, a coefficient for our first independent variable and a coefficient for our second independent variable. So let's focus on the first one. In order to get the first one, we need to follow this formula. So we need to take the correlation between our dependent variable and first independent variable minus the products of our correlation between our independent variable and second dependent variable, and our correlation of our independent variable, the first one, and our second independent variable. We need to take that and we need to divide it by 1 minus the correlation between our two independent variables squared. That's a mouthful, but we're going to take this step by step. So why don't we go ahead and set up our variable. So I'm just going to continue with this terminal that we've been working on. If you've been following along with these videos, you should have this get correlation method where you can give it any two set of observations, like our y. Remember, our y is our area. Our y is our price, our set of prices. And then our x1, our first independent variable, is our area. So we can do this and get the correlation. So that is the correlation of y and x1. So why don't we call that y x1 core equals, and let's go ahead and write this again, get correlation price and area. And there it is, yx1 correlation is this. And now we need to get the correlation between our y and our x2. So we're going to write that yx2 correlation equals get correlation. And why don't we just go ahead and separate this? Oops, that is not what I wanted to do, excuse me. There it is. So why don't we go ahead and separate this? Yx2 correlation equals get correlation between our x2 is our garage area and price. And it doesn't matter which order you write it. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one. Let's go ahead and change the name of this. So it is y underscore x1 underscore correlation, just like this is. So now we have our two correlations. And lastly, we need to get a correlation between our two independent variables. So x1, x2 correlation equals get correlation between our two independent variables, which is the garage area and the general ground area. And let's see, x1, x2 correlation, yx1 correlation, yx1 correlation. Let's do that again. x1, x2 correlation, yx1 correlation, yx2 correlation. this is our 3 correlations. So let's just plug it in, and don't forget our standard deviations. We still have this get standard deviation method that we created earlier. So we just need to pass this a data set, a set of observations for our y, and it will give us our y std equals this y std. So this is standard deviation for our price, and then our standard deviation for our x1, which don't forget our x1 is our area. So x std equals get std, this function that we just built, and we need to give it our x1, which is our area, and here it is, the standard deviation. And again, we can, instead of using this get std method, we can just use the built-in std method. And I'm sorry, instead of using this get std function, we can just use this built-in standard deviation method that Pandas provides. It's the same thing, just to show you guys it's the same thing. All right, there it is. So we have all our variables initialized. Now let's just plug them into this formula. So first we need to let's do the numerator, the top side, the left side of the numerator. Let's just do right side. So right side, this is this part. So this side equals, and we need to do our y standard deviation divided by our x1 standard deviation, which is the standard deviation of x, because x is our standard one. So x1 standard deviation, and that will give us this. Great, so now we have the right side. Let's just get the left side. And first let's get the numerator of the left side. So our numerator equals, and we need the y x1 standard deviation minus here we need y x2 standard deviation times here this is x1 x2 standard deviation. So this is just the y x1 deviation. I'm so sorry, correlation. I'm saying the wrong words. You guys must have been confused. Correlation. Correlation. I got confused from talking about the deviations over here. So anyways, we need to get the y x1 correlation minus the products of the y x2 correlation and the x1 x2 correlation. So let's go ahead and do that, and that should be our numerator. That is this number, our numerator for the left side. Now let's get our denominator for the left side. So denominator for the left side equals 1 minus, and we need to take our x1, x2 correlation, right? The correlation between x1 and x2 are 2 independent variables, and we need to square that. So 1 minus, let's go ahead and put this. So 1 minus the correlation of x1 and x2 squared. So let's see what that is. Denom, that is this. Now we need to take the numerator. So our coefficient, so let's say x1 coefficient equals this numerator we have, right? Divided by, let's say left side. Left side equals this numerator divided by the denominator. This numerator we have here divided by the denominator, this one right here. And that is our left side. So, and then now that we have the left side of the equation and the right side of the equation, our x1 coefficient, our b1, should equal left side times right side, this variable that we got up here. And again, it's just this. So let's look at that. What is our x1 coefficient? There it is, 80. So we have our x1 coefficient. That means that for every 1 square feet increase in our independent variable, our first independent variable, which is the total ground square feet in the total ground area in square feet. So for every 1 increase in square feet should correspond with an $80 increase in price. That's what this coefficient means. So we have done this. Now we just need to find our second coefficient. But again, you guys are getting used to this. Just now that we've done this by hand, we need to abstract away how to figure out the coefficient of something using a function. So we've been doing this with our standard deviation. We did this with finding the correlation. We're going to do this with finding the coefficient. We're going to abstract away all these calculations we just did and put it into our self-made function that's going to find our coefficient for us. We're going to hide all these details that we just calculated into a self-made functions we're going to make. So once we just give it some information, it will spit back out whatever this coefficient should be. So thank you guys for watching. See you with the next video where we go ahead and turn all of this into a function. And please, if you like this video, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to tell 10 to 20 of your friends, share it. If you're African, you got to share it to at least 200 to 500 of your friends. So thanks for watching. See you guys at the next video. Peace.
Financial freedom, my only hope.